The election is over. When is the right time to buy? Hey, it's Robbie Bro, and this is Tracey Lucera, as always, for the Mortgage Minute Update here for the Lafayette Parish real estate market. Thank you so much for joining
Good
us, Tracey, as
morning.
always. So when is the right time to buy? You know, the election's over. One of the things that I know you heard, I heard all the time, you know, when is the right time to buy? I'm waiting until after the election. Kind of give us your thoughts.
Right. Same thing. I've heard the same thing from clients, whether it be buying, refinancing, building. Everybody wants to wait to see what happens. Well, the election's over. So now what?
The answer is, you know, what's going to typically happen, this is going to be nationwide. Most areas that are predominantly red, and again, this is not necessarily a political post, this is predominantly red because their candidate won. There's going to be a little bit more of an influx of activity that pops up. Now, keep in mind, we are jumping into the holidays, so we typically see a little bit of a dip, but the people that are actually out there that are looking on the market are much more motivated to be able to jump out and buy. You know, a lot of folks have Christmas to be able to deal with, getting ready for under the tree. So the people that are out there, we're finding, are much more motivated.
Right. Yeah. And that their buyer seller confidence is higher because their candidate won. So
now, on the flip side, the major metropolitan areas, the predominantly blue areas, you're going to see a little bit of a dip going, as far as, because their candidate did not end up making it over. However, you know, my prediction, come January, after we've had a chance to get the feelings out and get through all that stuff and getting through the mourning process and the grieving process, come January 1st, I think we're going to be back to business as usual.
Right. So the questions I've been fielding lately post-election are, how did election results affect rates? Because immediately everybody thought election, Republican and Fed meeting, dropping the Fed fund rate by 1/4 point. Rates should be super low. I fielded so many texts over the past week. I think everybody's super stuck on when Trump was in office, rates were in the twos. Well, also we were dealing with COVID and he's technically not in office yet. So short term, what happened with rates is because the trader reaction to the election results were so positive, it drove up the bond yield, which made rates go up a bit. Now they've tapered down since then. That was a few days that it affected the market in that way. We're hoping that rates will continue, mortgage rates, that is, will continue to taper off and at least slow down from going up.
Gotcha. So again, Fed funds rate does not tie into the mortgage market. What is the federal funds rate? What is that?
So the Fed fund rate is the cost for banks to borrow money, overnight lending. Okay. It doesn't directly affect mortgage rates. It can indirectly affect mortgage rates, but just because Powell dropped the Fed fund rate by 1/4 point last week, that does not mean that mortgage rates dropped by 1/4 point.
Absolutely. So this is going to be more like credit cards.
More short term. It affects quickly. Credit cards, auto loans, things like that. And eventually it should trickle down and have a positive effect on mortgage rates, but it won't be 1/4 point decrease in mortgage rates overnight.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So when is the right time to buy or sell a house?
So great question, because this is something that we probably feel, whether we're dealing with the election or just dealing with life in real estate in general. The answer is, it depends. You know, it really depends on when you are ready. What is your timeline to be able to buy? What is your timeline that you plan on staying in the home? You know, are you going to be in there for 6 months? Are you going to be in there for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that happens to be? And then on top of that, you know, your financial house has to be kind of in order for it to make sense to be able to make that move for you. Look, at the end of the day, this is not, buying a house is not gambling. Unless you're buying a home to be able to flip. Timing on the market is going to run a little bit different. And if you're working on a short-term hold for the time that you're holding on to that house, timing in the market's going to be really important, and being able to watch what that happens to look like. But if you're holding on to something for 10 years, there's never been a 10-year period in the history of real estate where prices were less than the beginning of that period ever. Like
right.
COVID, that's including COVID, which is insane to me that's actually run through, where you actually run through the graph and it's actually made its way and you still have a higher appreciation rate right there. So The answer is when you are ready. So, at some point, us personally, when we do enter into that market, the place is going to be what's most important for the family. Is it a neighborhood that we like? Does the lot meet the needs of the kids to be able to go and run and have friends, proximity to friends, proximity to
School,
shopping and school, and,
work.
fun joke that I love to go and poke around with Tracey is that, like, is it close enough in the bubble? There's some dollars that are going to be spent that are based off of convenience because it's close to where she needs to be, and there's a price that's worth it to her and us to be able to make that move forward.
Right. So, if you're buying a primary residence, you have to live somewhere. We talked about that too this morning. You have to live somewhere, right? So, the investment, most of the time, as long as you take care of the property, the investment is that it's an investment. So, whether you need to downsize, upsize, work relocation, lifestyle change in relationship status, mobility, handicapped issue, if it's time for you to buy, then it's it's time. That's when it's time. It's time
Makes
when
sense.
you said it's time.
Okay.
You won't waste money doing it because you have to live somewhere, unless you're living rent free with mom and dad, and that will get old really fast.
Speaking of mom and dad, Dad used to tell me you can never time the market. You can never time a falling knife. You can't catch a knife at the very bottom. It's going to catch you one way or the other. And You're never going to catch something that's being run up on the apex. You're going to catch it on the way up. You're going to catch it on the way down. Same thing that's going to happen with the stock market. But the time for you to buy your home is when you are ready. So, Tracey, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Where can they find you?
Tracey Lasair at HancockWhitney.com, Tracey.Lasair at HancockWhitney.com, 337-257-9146.
We will see you next week.